This is a special presentation of EA Sports from the Coliseum in Oakland. Our tribute to the coach, the John Madden Legacy Game. I'm Brandon Gaudin here to take you through the proceedings. And coming up, we're going to tell the story of a man who was truly larger than life and whose impact on the sport of football, certainly it's going to live on for decades and decades to come. Now, we've assembled a couple of rosters featuring some of Coach's favorite players from both yesterday and today. And Coach himself will be on the sidelines for both squads, trying to motivate his guys to victory. And I'm joined now by my good friend Charles Davis. CD, your thoughts on John Madden and what he meant to the sport he loves so much?
For me, Brandon, it's the word joy. He brought that to the game of football, brought the game to so many people. He stayed involved his entire life. And moving forward, when you think of football, you're always going to think John Madden.
One time for old times. What do you say we play some football as we are underway from Oakland in the John Madden Legacy Game. Here comes Devin Hester bringing it out. Oh, a dangerous return man showing it here. Still going past the 30. And he'll bring it back all the way. Touchdown NFC.
That was a special return. And it happened because he's a special returner. He has to have that approval from his special teams coach's head coach to bring it out of the end zone.
But let's be honest, a lot of times when they bring it out of the end zone like he did there, they don't have approval. I mean, I think a lot of times they do, but correct me if I'm wrong. Sometimes it's just a guy getting a feel, right?
You're exactly right. What's the old adage? Sometimes you just have to know when to break the rules. And if you do, you're taking on some responsibility. But he was happy to do so there.
Oh, and now they're going to fake it. And he can't find a receiver, and he's brought down. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that you don't like that call on the opening drive of the game.
It's a very strong limb that you're out on right now. Okay, look, the game between college and the NFL continues to creep closer, but that is truly a college play, not an NFL play. Because you'd snap the ball from the 3-yard line there, whether it's going for 1 or going for 2. So it makes sense to try it that way, maybe fake it. In this case, from the 15, makes 0 sense.
And now your lead's just 6-0 instead of 7-0. So, Charles, as mentioned, we've got another Coach Madden over here on the NFC sideline. So the man coaching this NFC squad, let's call him Young John Madden. This is a coach who was trying to establish a foothold in the NFL and about to do it very successfully.
Yeah, you think back to that period, those early days as the coach of the Raiders, the late 60s in the AFL, and then in the NFL in the early 70s. He was a guy who was ahead of his time. The Raiders were one of the first teams to have mini camps, one of the first teams to film practice because he wanted to practice coaching as much as he could. And his teams, they were successful right from the start of his head coaching tenure.
They start the drive with a give to Allen. So as we mentioned at the top, let's take you through the life of John Madden. And you know, it's very fitting that we're here back in the Bay Area, not just because John's so associated with Raider football, but also because this was where he spent his formative years.
Yeah, he grew up over in Daly City with his buddy John Robinson, who would also become an NFL head coach. He played his high school ball at Jefferson High, eventually wound up playing tackle at the University of Oregon and later Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. Played well enough that in 1958, he was a 21st round draft pick of the Philadelphia Eagles. That's right, the draft had 30 rounds then.
Now a shot taken on 3rd down, but it's going to wind up incomplete.
That's an excellent job right there on 3rd down. Like any defense, you never want to let them get anything started, and that would have been a 1st down. Instead, you saw the contact on time, no penalty, and before this drive could get wings, it's 4th down.
On is the Hall of Famer Ray Guy to punt this away on 4th down. Yards the tally on the return there. And the NFC will take over 1st and 10. You see the AFC defense heading back out there.
So good starting field position for him here as they come up 1st and 10 at their 35-yard line.
To throw is Favre.
That'll be caught by Rice.
Charles, you mentioned Coach was a 21st-round draft pick back in 1958. It was the Philadelphia Eagles who selected him. But unfortunately for John, knee problems, they just continued to dog him. He was hurt in his first training camp, actually never saw the field as a player in the NFL. But it was still during his time with the Eagles, you and I were talking about this before going on air, that you could start to see the light bulb going on for what his career path might entail.
And it went on in a big way, didn't it? Because while he was rehabbing his knee, he started to spend a lot of time breaking down film with the Eagles with quarterback Norm Van Brocklin, the future Hall of Famer and future head coach in the NFL. Remember, Van Brocklin coached with the Falcons, he coached with the Vikings. And it's there during that time, I think Coach Madden realized his love of football and love for teaching, combining all that together, and that meant being a football coach. So in 1960, began his coaching career at a small college south of San Luis Obispo called Allen Hancock, and then later at San Diego State University under another legendary coach, the guy who could throw it around pretty well, Don Coryell.
And at the 7-yard line, the catch is made. Touchdown! George Kittle, 41 yards, as his guys are able to extend their lead.
Remember the one-dimensional tight ends who just put their hand in the ground and block people? Well, if you're that guy now, you're probably a fullback in an I-formation offense. These tight ends nowadays can do everything. Block, run, and catch. Beautiful connection for a touchdown.
Morton Anderson down for the extra point. And this is up, it's through, and extends their first quarter lead to 13-0. Just a 4-play drive that time.
And it all ends with a George Kittle touchdown.
Following the touchdown, here's Anderson to kick it away.
And Hall not going to bring this one out. The AFC making their way out, and it's one of Coach's favorites, another local guy, Tom Brady, who will be at the controls. And boy, Coach always admired the way number 12 could run an offense, and especially his ability to stay calm under pressure.
Tom Brady is a guy who's always looking downfield. He never looks at the rush. He hangs in the pocket, and he makes a throw. He's a cool guy. He's a tough guy. Let me tell you, there's no one calmer in the pocket than Tom Brady.
And I know that Coach has a great appreciation for Tom Brady, who turned 45 back on August 3rd, because Coach coached a guy like him in George Blanda, who played a long time in the NFL. In this game, it features legends and active players. Tom Brady qualifies as both.
Charles, you know, it was in the early 1960s that a young John Madden made the acquaintance of the owner of the Oakland Raiders, one Al Davis, of course, and the two, they really bonded, would become one of the best owner-coach duos in NFL history. And to take it a step further, Al Davis became someone who John referred to as his best friend.
Yeah, in 1967, Brandon, Al Davis hired Coach Madden to be a linebackers coach. Remember, this was still the AFL at that point. We had not merged totally with the NFL. And Coach Madden, he paid dividends almost immediately. Helped the Raiders win the AFL title in 1968. And that meant a date with the Green Bay Packers in what was now known as Super Bowl II. But by 1969, at the age of 32, just 32, Brandon, John Madden assumed the mantle of head coach of the Oakland Raiders. And what a ride he, the Raiders, and the NFL were about to go on.
One quarter in the books at the Coliseum. What a day. The NFC starts with the early lead in the John Madden Legacy game on EA Sports. They'll come to the line here needing 9 yards to pick up the first.
Throwing is Brady on 3rd down. And he cannot get rid of it. The NFC getting in there for the sack. That's the Hall of Famer Lawrence Taylor doing what he does best.
I know we don't have a special scoreboard to show it, but the offense, they've surrendered more sacks than they have points thus far. This defense, they're winning in all phases of the game right now.
Here's Ray Guy now on to punt it away. Here's Hester. A pretty good punt, but a nice 13-yard return. And they will take over 1st and 10. The NFC offense coming out here. And you know, Charles, Coach Madden always said that if he had one drive to win a game and he had to pick a quarterback, he would pick Kenny Stabler. But I think if you asked him to omit any of his Raiders players, there's a good chance the guy he'd select would be Brett Favre.
Brett Favre is always smiling. He's always laughing. He's always talking to someone. He remembers that it's a game. And if it's a game, you should have fun.
And Brandon, that always reminds me of a great movie line where one of the players was telling the coach, every time I say it's a game, you say it's a business. And every time I say it's a business, you say it's a game. With Coach, it was always a game.
A very solid gain of 27.
Charles, you talked about John Madden and the Raiders going on a ride. Well, try these numbers on for size. In 10 seasons as a head coach, the Raiders won their division 7 times. They finished second the other 3 times, and he became the youngest coach to amass 100 career regular season victories and is still, to this day, the franchise leader in wins.
And when you think about it, that's where that rivalry with Kansas City really took root, as did the expression commitment to excellence. And boy, was it personified by the players who played for Coach Madden. On offense, how about quarterback Kenny Stabler, wide receiver Cliff Branch, wide receiver Fred Biletnikoff, tight end Dave Casper, to name a few. How about those great linemen he had? Center Jim Otto, guard Gene Upshaw, tackle Art Shell, all of them in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And guys on the defensive side of the ball, the Mad Stork himself, Ted Hendricks, Willie Brown, John Matuzak, Otis Sistrunk, and Big Ben Davidson. So many great players, so many great memories.
45 yards rushing for him now at his first 2 carries of the ball game. 2 minutes remain here in the first half of the John Madden Legacy game. We'll be back. Hey, we want to let you know, give you a fair warning that coming up at halftime, the folks at EA Sports have put together a very nice package in tribute to Coach Madden. So make sure you stick around for that. Again, coming up at halftime.
And he'll get this one back to the 5-yard line, but no further than that. They'll say no gain on the play, and it'll be 2nd and goal. On the draw, here's Sanders. And they see right through that defensively as he'll be hit and taken down to the backfield. Officially, it will go as a 1-yard loss, and that's going to lead to a 3rd down.
When a draw works, it can be a thing of beauty. But when it doesn't, oh, it can be ugly. And in this case, loss of yardage ugly.
They'll look to throw on 3rd and goal. Throw left side complete. That's Sanders. And he goes backwards on this one, losing yardage to the 7. Now the AFC going to use the first of their timeouts as they'll head to the sideline and talk over what to do next. The Hall of Famers kick is good, and that will extend their lead even further. So 3 points there, and they continue to build this first half lead.
Yeah, every little bit helps. And the more that you can put together drives and start controlling the tempo, controlling possession, finishing with points, the better off you're going to be.
After the made field goal, Anderson back out to kick it away.
Taken at the 15, a short kick. And the tackle going to be made right there at the 25-yard line. And the AFC offense heading back out. You know, Charles, Coach really loved to utilize his tight ends in the passing game. You think about Dave Casper, Hall of Famer for those great Raider teams. And I think he saw a lot of Dave Casper in an all-Madden staple, Tony Gonzalez.
Tony Gonzalez is the type of tight end I think everyone's looking for. He's a guy that can make some big plays from that tight end position. Let me tell you, you better make sure you have him accounted for on every play.
And that's exactly right, because Dave Casper, he could shred defenses down the middle of the field. And that's exactly what Tony Gonzalez did in his entire career. A 14-time Pro Bowl selection. Only Tom Brady has more. There's 6 guys in the 15,000-yard receiving club. He's the only tight end in there. Tony Gonzalez, every snap he had to know where he was because he could make plays short, medium, and long, and often put the ball in the end zone.
At the 23, it's 2nd and 12. To throw, it's Brady. And too much juice. It'll be out of bounds, incomplete.
Charles, you think about all the success that John Madden had as an NFL head coach, and he had plenty, and we talked about it, including the 10 straight winning seasons, a Super Bowl title. And like any great coach, he also suffered through a few tough losses along the way as well.
And Brandon, those tough losses came in high-stakes games because they always had such great success. Think about it this way. 6 times in his 10 years, the Raiders were knocked out near the AFL championship game or the AFC championship game, but might be a divisional round exit. That's the one that bothered him most of all. Three River Stadium, December 1972. Yes, the Immaculate Reception game. Franco Harris grabbing the ball that was deflected. Almost at his shoe tops, he picked it up and took it in for a game-winning score to give the Steelers a 13-7 victory. And partner, anyone who loves black and silver still doesn't believe that ball hit anyone in black and silver that day, and that play should never have counted.
The throwing to start the drive, but that one incomplete.
We know he has a lot of confidence in his arm and likes to force it downfield, but the coverage was tight there. Fortunate it wasn't picked off.
It's a 2nd down run with Sanders. And this will go as a short gain on what will be the
Coming up in the second half, we'll run through John's post-coaching triumphs. But for now, we present a special tribute to the man of the hour, narrated by the Raiders' own Trey Mosley.
What comes to mind when you hear the name Madden? Is it the coach who led the Raiders to their first Super Bowl victory? Perhaps it's the broadcaster who entertained millions of fans. Or maybe it's the video game known simply by his name. But no matter what comes to mind when you hear the name Madden, everyone thinks of one thing: football.
The core of it was football. It's the greatest game in the world. The left goes to the right goes to the left.
Madden is on the field. He wants to know if it's real. John Madden goes on the shoulders of his players.
In my mind, John Madden is the most important figure in the history of professional football. Show me somebody else who did it on 3 levels the way John did it. There's nobody.
Boy, Charles, yeah, that is really well done. Coach was something else, wasn't he?
I'm reminded what Al Davis said when he was inducted coach of the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Brandon. He loved the game. He loved his team. He loved the Raiders. He loved this league. And you can see it with everything he does.
No doubt. But it's quite possible, though, that now he would say, hey, enough of that. Let's play some football. The second half forthcoming from Oakland.
The AFC offense set to take their next drive.
By no means certainly are they out of this contest. 2-score game start of the third quarter. But you feel like if they don't get points and then they give up points, then it can become a slippery slope. This feels like an important possession.
Yeah, that slope becomes even more slick if you come away empty-handed on this drive, because then you give them a chance to extend their lead. You need some kind of points here, even if it's just a field goal. It's what I call one of those calming drives. Try and slow things down a little bit.
This is caught. It's Brown. And he slips up past the 45 before being tackled. They'll run with Allen.
So now, Charles, to pick up the story we've been telling, John Madden at 42, he had just completed a 10-year stint as the coach of the Raiders. He wants to step away a bit from the grind of coaching, but he doesn't want to step away from the game of football. So he ends up signing on with CBS in 1979 to try his hand at broadcasting. And much like his coaching career, he was pretty much an instant success.
Partner, he really connected with the people right from the start, and people may not remember, he wasn't even on the #1 team in the beginning. He worked his way up. But the same things that made him
And touchdown! Tyreek Hill, 54 yards. And the AFC able to get a bit closer.
That's a score you felt they had to have here in the third quarter to get back in this game.
And you know that there's an emphasis on their side. Hey, we know this. We know where we are. But sometimes that binds you up so much that you try too hard, you don't get the score. A perfect combination of urgency, yet relaxed enough to get it done.
Brady's going to look to throw, and it's incomplete. But a flag is down here, so hang on. Let's see what we've got.
And a penalty accepted, and they move the ball forward.
So what can Brady do here as he'll lead his guys up to go for 2. They'll try and throw for it. And this is going to be caught. So they do get it. And the 2 points. Now they're back down to a 1-score deficit. And that almost makes it a brand new ballgame. Now it's a 1-score affair after they get the 2.
And you have to know they were holding their breath on the 2-point play because they had to have it to get it within the range that you just talked about. Dialed up their 2-point play. It worked. Now they're feeling like they've got a shot at this one.
Taken in at the 3. And no alley to be found. The coverage was solid, and he's dropped at the 18. Ready to begin their next drive here, the NFC offense. But Charles, they still have the lead despite their defense giving up a touchdown on the previous possession. And even though they have that lead, it feels like a back-and-forth ball game where to try to get momentum back, maybe they need at least 3 here on this drive.
I think you're right about that, Brandon, because your game plan doesn't change. But I do believe your urgency does because of the last score that went against your team. So what you want to do now is have your own drive and try and make sure that that momentum stays in your camp.
So for Coach Madden, Charles, by 1981, his broadcasting career is really taking off. He's elevated to the network's #1 booth that calls all the big matchups. And he gets the plum assignment of calling Super Bowl 16, 49ers and Bengals, and he's teamed up with Pat Summerall. And that pairing ultimately would go on to be one of the most influential in sports broadcasting history.
Influential not just in us listening to them. Remember, they went on and called 8 Super Bowls together.
And from their own end zone, it's a fake. And he's brought down. Can't do anything with a football. It's a sack and a turnover on downs.
How about that for a call? Leading in the second half, fake punt, but this one's going to work against them.
And, partner, I love a fake punt as much as anyone. In fact, I might love it more than other people, but in this case, probably a step too far because not only does it not work, but look at the field position they gave up.
And down he goes. Pressure gets him back at the 14.
Not the first and goal play they drew up. Multiple defenders in to bring him down to the ground.
Well, there's still time to rectify this situation because the silver lining, it took a sack on 1st and goal. But that close to the goal line, that still definitely hurts.
It's 2nd and goal, but now all the way back at the 14. Another try after the first down sack. Brady, and this one complete to Reed. That time the completion goes for 4 yards, and we're set up with a 3rd and goal.
Oh, it's time to give a little credit there to the defense. They played that very well because it was a drag route, and he ran a little shallower than normal as he worked straight across the field. He was hoping he'd get lost behind the defensive line, but once he made the catch, nowhere to turn upfield and gain any yardage.
So through 3 quarters of the John Madden legacy game, it's the NFC Stars and young Coach Madden on top. And we'll be back to the Coliseum after this. 3rd and goal. And keep in mind, very possibly 4-down territory.
Now Brady. Oh, no, he lost the football.
place to fumble down here in the red zone. At least they got it. They'll have another shot. Or no, they won't have another shot. It's going to be 4th down. Maybe they could at least salvage 3.
And they were thinking 6 points because at this position of the field, it's go time, right? You take your shots at the end zone. They weren't able to do that one. So you look over at the sideline, there's head coach saying, oh, heck, kick it, field goal time.
So kind of disappointing there. I mean, yes, they get the 3, but with starting field position like that, 3's not what you're banking on.
No, you just have to wonder if you can afford to let chances like that continue to pass you by. You've got to find ways to get the ball into the end zone and put 6s on the scoreboard.
And a nice return sets them up pretty good here right at the 30-yard line. The offense for the NFC ready to get their next drive started. Right now clinging to a 1-score lead, Charles, and I think operating within that 4-minute offense with a little less than 4 minutes to go applies here, right?
It certainly does, and that means the playbook is still wide open. But you are a little bit more careful about what you're calling. You want plays that are going to gain yardage, how would you say it, consistently, right? You don't need the big shots downfield, but make sure the clock continues to run. Pile up the first downs, and the goal, end the game with your quarterback kneeling down at the end, and you still have the lead.
And able to get this one across the 45 before he's brought down.
As you mentioned, CD, talking about John Madden, the broadcaster, he called 8 Super Bowls with Pat Summerall, 3 more with Al Michaels later in his career. He spent nearly 3 decades in the booth all told. And not only was he beloved for his mannerisms, we know that, but he was an innovator as well.
Yeah, Brandon, you're talking about things like the telestrator, which totally became identified with him, and now it's a staple for all analysts to have in the booth. And then you think about things like turducken on Thanksgiving, when you use words like boom and pow. He helped create the old Madden team. He was a very popular commercial pitch man. And even the Madden Cruiser was unique, and you had to be someone to get a ride on it, too.
2nd down, and back they go to Sanders.
And he's able to take it across midfield before going out of bounds.
Now, CD, we did get a little ahead of ourselves talking about John Madden, the broadcaster in the 90s and 2000s, because there was another product during that time period that he became quite famous for, and it's something that you and I know a little bit about, and that's the video game that bears his name. Originally John Madden Football when it was first released back in the late 1980s, and now known the world over simply as Madden.
And Coach saw this originally as a way to teach the game of football. The early designs were for a 7-on-7 game, but he said no chance. He would not sign off on it. He wanted to be as realistic as possible. He told them, call me when it's 11-on-11. And he got his wish.
Yeah, after that debut, Madden the video game continued to pick up steam through the 90s in a big way. And John himself, many will remember, was a commentator for the series for many years. And now here we are in the 2020s, and this game has sold somewhere in the neighborhood of 150 million copies.
On 1st and 10, it's Sanders. And he is out of bounds inside the 30.
So, CD, you look at the accumulation of John Madden's achievements in the world of football, the coaching success, the Super Bowl title, the incredible career as a broadcaster with 12 Emmy Awards, Madden the video game. It was very fitting back in 2006 that John Madden got the call to be enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
A more deserving person you will not find. He gave an incredible speech on that day, Brandon. So many of his former Raider players were in attendance. He talked about how he envisioned that when the last person turns off the lights in the hall every night, that the bus talk football amongst themselves. And what a discussion that might be.
Yeah, he finished his speech by saying, today feels like the second time in my life that I'm being carried off on the shoulders of others. Yet instead of off the field, it's into the Hall of Fame. This has been the sweetest ride of them all.
Not totally home free yet, but it's looking good as they come up 1st and 10. Running right, here's Sanders. Trying to turn the corner, but he's going to be stopped right near the line of scrimmage. Now the AFC going to take a timeout. It's their 2nd as they'll head to the sideline and talk over what to do next.
Another running situation on the doorstep as they come up 2nd and 10. Another run here with Sanders. And he's able to get this inside the 10 now to the 9. Now the defense will burn their 3rd and final timeout as they'll head to the sideline and talk over what to do next. They'll come to the line needing only 2 yards to gain the first here. Here's Favre to throw. Able to haul it in is Kittle. And he'll be taken down, but he does have first down yardage. It goes as a gain of 8, and it moves the chains. He's been the go-to guy. They needed a big play there on 3rd down. Went his way. It worked out.
Doesn't matter whether they've scouted it or that they think he's going to get the ball. He has a knack for finding his way open and completing the connection.
It's 1st and goal, and a late touchdown at this stage could officially salt this one away. They'll run with Sanders, and he will carry this one in. Touchdown NFC. Taking it in from a yard out, and they are able to add on to their advantage. What a huge touchdown that was, obviously, here in the late stages of the 4th quarter as they try to put this one away.
And, Brandon, when they watch the film after this week, they'll be very proud of every rep if they close this game out. Just a few snaps remaining. They can't relax just yet.
Now to try to add the extra point, the lefty Anderson. And this one gives his guys a 12-point lead. A pretty long drive that time. 11 plays all told. And Barry Sanders the one to finish it off as he does so with a touchdown run. Following the touchdown, here's Anderson to kick it away. No run back here for Hall, and this will come out to the 25. The offense for the AFC set to go now. And after the field goal last time, see what they can get here. At least they got points out of the last drive, Charles.
I've never met an offensive coach that didn't want to drive to end with a kick. Most of them want to end with a PAT, right? In this case, a field goal, they'll take it. Way better than the alternative, which is a punt.
Yeah, but you've met fan bases that wanted that, that weren't happy with that field goal.
I haven't met a fan base yet that wants to drive to end with a kick, other than the extra point. That's it.
Brady's incompletion on 1st down leads to a 2nd and 10. They'll set up a throw, and that's complete to Brown. And a 6-yard gain gets him right around the 43. They'll get to the line here, but remember, it's also 3rd down. Now, meanwhile, the throw by Brady knocked away, incomplete.
As a defensive back, you have some weapons at your disposal that we don't often talk about. And you can read the receiver's eyes, you can read his hands, and you know that the arrival of the ball is imminent, and that allows you to make a play on it and oftentimes knock it away.
And this is intercepted, and that should do it. And to the 43, so down inside the 45 to the 43-yard line. That's where they'll take over. Well, I guess an interception at this point on 4th down is just as bad as an incomplete pass. Either way, the ball goes over to the other side.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in this late in the game, and there's not a whole lot he can do there, and he winds up giving the ball away.
On the counter now, it's Sanders, and he can only manage to get a couple. 2nd and 8 coming up. The last run got a couple. Here's 2nd and 8. Victory very much in sight now as they'll take a knee. So it's a win here for the NFC. Just an incredible afternoon of football and remembering the life of John Madden. And before we go, one final message. And for all of us at EA Sports, this one's for you, Coach.
I just say this, I thank you all very much. This has been the sweetest ride of them all.
Time to decide how